Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar on building blocks of a sales playbook solution. My name is Ravish Kamath. I'm the VP of Product for ShareDemos. ShareDemos is a technical enablement platform, an enablement platform targeted towards technical marketing and sales enablement folks. So without any delays, let's get into today's webinar topic. So a couple of quick notes before we get into the webinar. All registered users of this webinar will receive a copy of today's webinar, and in addition to that, you will also see my contact information towards the end of this webinar. So if you do have any questions regarding some of the content that you saw in today's webinar or heard on today's webinar, please do send me an email and I'd be more than happy to answer your queries. So with that, we'll get started on today's topic, building blocks of a sales playbook solution. Before we, go and set the agenda in a little more detail with what is a sales playbook, let's try and understand where does a sales playbook really come in from a sales enablement perspective. A sales enablement is a part of the organization that is kind of responsible for helping provide salespeople with the required information to make a sale happen effectively and quickly. Now, there are different types of information that you can make available to your sales teams. One is a set of collateral and assets that are essential for a sale, which is all your outbound material, marketing material about your company, about your product, about your features. These could be decks, presentations, data sheets, technical white papers, case studies, and all these information. At the same time, there is another piece of information that is quite critical for helping your sales teams kind of understand your overall landscape. Now, these information and these pieces of information exist often within, solutions called sales playbooks, and that is exactly the part that we are going to be covering in today's webinar. So what is a sales playbook? It's all about maintaining a single source of truth for all potential customer interactions. So this generally handles all the scenarios, right from when a leads just come in to whether a lead's somewhere in the drop off or peter off stage to actually when a sales is about to enter into a more closure stage. It's got all the information about competitors. It's got your value proposition. And in fact, it generally has a little more narrative than what an end user end sales pitch deck would have. So this narrative is quite essential to give salespeople a little more background, a little more information, a little more data so that they can actually go into these meetings a little better prepared. The key point about a sales playbook is to never let it go static. We have often worked with a lot of companies where we've seen that over time, some of these sales playbooks tend to grow old, and this is to do with a combination of factors such as, what is the format in which it is maintained? It's in a PPT. Where is it hosted? It's on an intranet, internal intranet. There are multiple versions of it floating around and things like that. So in today's webinar, we'll cover some of the aspects that we think that can help address some of these pain points. So let's go on to the next slide. So a little bit of quick stats around what's the true opportunity cost, or what are the set of metrics that are causing some of these for example, in terms of time spent searching, sales reps spend about on an average of 25% of their time every month searching for collateral. So this, in terms of productive time, is quite lost. You want most of your salespeople to actually be selling instead of actually searching for collateral. So that's one of the big miss items. There is about 65% of the sales reps actually say they cannot find the relevant content to promote their prospects. So going on to where do sales playbooks help the most? Sales playbooks help you onboard new hires faster because you're giving them a single place where they can actually quickly learn about your company, your products, your features, and at the same time, they can actually even mimic top performing reps, their behaviors, and actually, quickly learn the ropes of the new organization. You can also use sales playbooks to get an entry into key accounts. Give the knowledge that what exactly the buyers are looking for, what are the competitors in the industry are offering, what are some of the industry-based solutions that they can offer to enter into these key accounts. So some of these are areas that sales playbooks really help a lot on. Another key aspect of a playbook is being able to divide a playbook so that it actually is mapped to the stages of your CRM solution. Now, there are multiple ways in which this can be done. There are sales playbook solutions that integrate directly into your CRMs. For example, whether it's a Marketo or a Salesforce or Eloqua. Now, the idea is that based on the stage of your lead, whether it is in you will see here that it starts with marketing qualified lead all the way down to the forecast or closure or win or loss. Playbooks can actually play a very important role. You could have stage-based content that is mapped to a specific stage readily available within your CRM. So for example, imagine a salesperson who is within the Salesforce. He is looking at a current opportunity, and the opportunity has been marked as a sales accepted lead. What if there is a widget right there contextually which can actually suggest to these salespeople what are some of the materials that can be shared with that specific prospect? Being able to do so and being able to also track that information as to whether the prospect interacted with that content is quite critical in overall success of a playbook. Now, looking at what makes, and this is the heart of the webinar, which is the elements of a playbook solution. What are some of the features that you should consider when you're looking at a playbook solution? Number one, in our opinion, is the content management system. We have seen too many instances of where the content management system has been the single largest roadblock to actually getting some of the content live or for getting the content up to date, keeping the content up to date. So from that perspective, having a CMS which is pretty quick to author, being able to update content rapidly, being able to maintain versions of different pieces of content within it, is quite critical. And all along, if you remember, the objective of a playbook or content for sales team is to never let it grow static. We need to keep making changes as the industry is changing, as the industry is evolving. You need to keep making changes very quickly. So a CMS that is very easy to use, very easy to update is very critical. Now, again, when we are talking about CMS, there are elements like organization, tagging, and searchability, and there are a few other things that kind of come in that are quite critical as well. So a little bit of that is addressed under the accessibility, which is your salespeople may be on the move, on the go, in the field. So do they have access to it while they are out in the field? Which means, is there an iPad app? Is there a mobile app? Or is the site itself responsive? Is some of the things that you might want to think about. Being able to organize content, in a hierarchical fashion, allowing salespeople to use a search function that is actually pretty powerful to let them to find the content that they are interested in very quickly. Being able to plug into existing CRM so that the content actually gets surfaced within a CRM contextually within a lead field is also all considered under accessibility. Now, there is a third piece that is often ignored, which is the reporting and the usage driver aspect of it, which is, look for solutions that have reports on content consumption, because at the end of the day, you want to know if your system is working. And what's very critical here is both aspects, which is, A, is the content getting consumed? When we say, is the content getting consumed, what is it that is getting consumed? Is it objection handling? Is it competitor competitive landscape? Is it a value proposition? Is it a solution-oriented positioning? You should have information as to what your sales teams or your field teams are actually consuming at the end of the day. Being able to have leaderboards, or being able to have some sort of a gamification where you can show your top sales reps who have accessed the system, being able to reward some of them through these mechanisms is actually also can actually also help this solution go a long way. At the last piece, of course, is kind of optional, but is in a longer term view of the solution can be quite critical, which is is the reinforcement aids. Being able to have apps such as quizzes or some sort of a testing framework or module in addition to any other newer age or learning aids like flashcards can also help the onboarding process go a long way. So there are multiple types of playbooks. Like we said, this webinar we're going to be focusing a little more about the sales playbook and the sales playbook solution itself, but there are playbooks that other playbooks that people do create, which is a partner playbook, which is a slight variation of the sales playbook, but more focused on the partners, giving partners a little more information on the training and incentive programs and some other packaging information related to their product as well, maybe. There is a customer success playbook, which is a lot more focused on a post-deployment and a customer lifecycle kind of a story. But that's a topic for maybe future webinars. Going on to what are some of the essential sections of a playbook. In our experience, we find that most people try and structure their playbooks by these 6 large blocks: personas and conversations. And we'll get a little deeper into each one of these blocks in the subsequent slides. Personas and conversations, it's always a quick look at all your customer personas and how to initiate a meaningful dialogue with them. Solution overview should generally cover all the features at a very high level. Customer success is all your case studies and wherever you go, by industry, by vertical, some sort of a list that your sales reps can quickly understand. Competition and objections is very critical for any new salesperson who's on the team, or even for existing sales folks to constantly look at to understand, what's new, what's changed. Maybe a competitor has caught up. Maybe a competitor has launched a new service. How did they actually figure it out? All this data can actually live under competition and objections. What are some of the enablement resources? Where can they find them? Is another essential section. And the last piece is, of course, the pricing and packaging. So let's go into the first one, which is personas and conversations. So getting deeper into buyer personas, being able to create a complete profile, including what their job titles are, roles are within a company, trying to understand what are their OKRs, what are their key responsibilities, or KRAs, key result areas, and trying to be able to list a persona and map a persona down to their priorities within an organization, or what are their typical pain points, and how your solution fits in with those buyer personas is very essential in how some of the playbooks can actually drive value within the organization. There are some value prompting conversations. So these could be in the form of questions, right? Probing questions that sales reps can ask. Now, these are questions what we call as questions that are open-ended, but essentially actually spawn a thought process in the mind of the buyer. Now, these questions could be, how do you address mobile access today? Right? Something as simple as that. Now, there is a reason why you ask the question. The reason you ask the question is that, this is an area potentially that maybe someone has not thought about, and maybe it is one of the areas of concern with regards to this industry as of today, that, that the industry is not really addressing or covering. Have you thought of privacy? Have you thought of encryption? Have you thought of your data as being safe? Have you thought of if your data is backed up on a regular basis? Now, there are so many levels in which these questions can be formed, and these questions actually provide some sort of a blueprint or a boilerplate for sales reps to actually ask questions, spawn a thought process in the buyer's mind, and also maybe get into an engage, and get into some sort of an interactive conversation. So the last one is obviously trying to help sales folks spot opportunities. Now, some of the large companies, and especially here in the Bay Area, have done a very good job of identifying trigger words that prospects like to use. Now, these trigger words could be industry-specific trigger words. These could be very, they might be very different from what your company is really used to saying. So things like trying to spot things like data loss prevention, privacy, backups, being able to spot these keywords and actually jump in and interject and actually help allay some of the buyer's concerns can go a long way in helping the sales folks understand more about your product and positioning. With regards to the section, which is a solution overview itself, there are 3 chapters that we recommend. There is the product solution features. Ideally, you should contain a quick 2-minute story or a narrative about your product features. You should have a high-level pitch, then you can have a little more detailed level pitch. But the key here is to help the sales folks instantly know what's a quick 2-minute story, because this, more often than not, is the most critical piece of any pitch, sales pitch, where they will use parts of this 2-minute story to actually nail some of their openings in the sales conversations. How to approach upsell or integration sells. It's not always very easy. Being able to provide your sales teams with different areas of approach for upsell, presenting certain features that could be critical in the form of a story, or whether it is as part of a consulting or as a partner solution, is also important. Of course, the last piece is the frequently asked questions, because there will always be a lot of questions around your product features, your product. These could be technical, these could be right down to the specifications, but generally it's good to maintain a list of frequently asked questions as well. Coming on to the customer success, being as detailed as possible, listing your case studies by vertical markets, by solution, by industry. All of this is quite critical in helping your salespeople understand the role you play in each of these places. We have FAQ again repeated here, just in case FAQs are also very vertical or customer specific centric. Moving on to competition and objections. Identifying all your key competitors, and trying to have some sort of a SWOT analysis or some sort of a strength and weakness analysis against your competitors will always help your sales teams understand your product better, your positioning better. Objection handling, one of the most critical chapters in the whole playbook, often done in the format of a Q&A or a role play that is there, and trying to run sales reps through scenarios of common objections that their solution might face. Now, it could be a competitor-led objection. It could be there is no need for this solution kind of an objection, or any of these other scenarios that you can think of for your product. But trying to walk a sales rep through a series of Q&A, which are often chained. It can be chained, it can be unchained. When I say chained, it means being able to navigate a tree of questions. So someone asks about privacy and you say it's not really something you're concerned about, then what should the response be, and how do you actually walk the prospect through this tree is something that you can actually create in objection handling. Being able to reiterate key differentiators, again, a quick 3 bullet point summary against every one of your competitors as to how you win or what is your differentiator is quite critical as well from a playbook perspective. Enablement resources, this is where finally, you've got the prospect engaged, the prospect's willing to give you a shot. The sales guys are looking to know what are the kind of demos and videos that you have available to showcase your product. These are videos, walkthroughs, webcasts. Again, being able to have content in various formats, being able to have self-running demos, being able to have walkthroughs, being able to have webcasts of previous demos that were done are all very handy, as salespeople often run into a myriad set of situations, especially around the prospects being able to have the time to parse through some of these content. Remember, the salespeople may or may not be there to drive through some of this content at the end of the day. So if they have to leave something behind, you need to ensure that you have content in different formats that you can actually share with your sales teams. And you can list them all here under the enablement resources section. And obviously, whereas the sales asset repositories, this is of course completely all assets that you think are good to go and can be shared with some of the customers. Being able to have a clear-cut pricing, listing all your SKUs, listing all your pricing, effective dates, end-of-life dates, providing your sales team with what are the consulting, professional services, and negotiation boundaries are all also important information that your sales folks can have when they go out into the field to sell your product. So we talked a little bit about reports and usage drivers being a critical part of the overall Playbook solution. Now, here's a sample screenshot from our product share demos, so which kind of tries and shows you what kind of information is available. So in this, we can see that we're tracking metrics such as 150 visitors came to the site, about 450 views, what was the completion rate, what was the average time on site, who are my top users, what was my top consumed content, where did my traffic largely come from, all this information visible at a glance. And there is more than that, but being able to have this sort of information allows you to react well, being able to know what content is trending, being able to know who's your top users, being able to know what geographies are accessing your content are all information that can go a long way in helping you make some of the required changes within your sales organization. So we just talked a little bit about what are some of the essential sections and chapters. Here's a sample playbook that we built out using our product share demos. Our platform, like we said, is a enablement platform. You can actually create some of the content on our platform and track its usage using our metrics and reports. So some of the sections that we just covered in the initial part of the webinar, the personas and conversations, solution overview, customer success, you can just see it built out here in a screenshot that I've attached onto the deck. With this, we come to the end of today's webinar. Like I said, if you would like to see how share demos can help you in your sales enablement journey, please do sign up on our website, which is www.sharedemos.com. And if you would like to get in touch with me with any questions that you had based on the content you saw in today's webinar, please do reach out to me at ravish@sharedemos.com or rkamath@regalix-inc.com. I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. With that, we come to the end of today's webinar. Thank you all for joining in on today's webinar. We hope you have a great day.